Gene Hackman wrote a letter never sent, a letter that no one read until it was too late. And yet, when the FBI finally found it, those scribbled words, the disjointed, fragmented sentences, unveiled an unimaginable tragedy. Hackman had known. He had known his wife was dying, but he couldn't do anything. Not because he didn't want to, but because his mind had become a prison. The letter was a silent scream inside the $1 million mansion. A house with no blood, no signs of forced entry, yet a place where something terrible had happened. A woman collapsed, unnoticed. A man wandered, trapped in his own mind. A tragedy, silent, invisible, until the letter spoke. Santa Fe, New Mexico. A place of serenity. Mountains stood in the distance, like silent guardians, embracing quiet mansions, each one isolated from the noise of the modern world. It was here, in this idyllic setting, that Gene Hackman lived. A $3.8 million home nestled against the desert landscape. Earthen walls, large windows, a home built for peace. But on a cold February afternoon, the tranquility of this place became something else. It became a haunting silence. February 26th. The Santa Fe Police Department received a call. Doug Lanham, a close friend of the Hackman family, had been trying to contact Gene for days. No response. At first, it wasn't alarming. Gene doesn't care for technology, Doug recalled, but he never completely cut himself off. Something felt wrong. Doug couldn't shake the feeling, so he called the police. When officers arrived, the mansion's gates were closed. No signs of damage, no forced entry. The door was unlocked. One of the officers pushed it open, and the moment they stepped inside, something was off. No sound, no TV, no music. Not even the distant hum of household appliances. Just silence. A thick, unnatural silence. Their footsteps echoed across the wooden floors as they moved through the house. Everything was intact. Unfinished paintings on an easel, books left open on the table, a cup of coffee on the kitchen counter, left untouched, like someone had poured it and never returned. Then they found Hackman, lying on the floor of a small room near the kitchen, his cane and sunglasses beside him, his face peaceful, but his half-closed eyes suggested something more, as if he had passed away in shock. But then came the true horror. Just 20 feet away in the bathroom, they found Betsy, motionless. No signs of violence, no struggle, nothing stolen, only eerily still. The silence became deafening. An investigator whispered, "Why didn't anyone report this? Why didn't anyone know?" Then they realized something chilling. Gene Hackman didn't own a phone. Ever. He had never used one. Not a cell phone. Not even a landline. He refused. He didn't trust technology. He liked to write, liked to paint, liked to live slowly. But that simplicity had become a trap, a prison of isolation. Investigators began reconstructing the timeline. February 11th, Betsy had sent an email. After that, nothing, no replies, no activity on her bank accounts, no signs of life. She had vanished from the world, and no one noticed. Gene Hackman had lived in a hazy reality, a reality where time blurred, memories faded, events melted into one another. This was late-stage Alzheimer's. Did he know what happened? Did he understand? Did he try to help? Or had he simply wandered through those empty halls? Alone? Days passed. Emails to Betsy went unopened. Calls to Gene went unanswered. Doug Lanham texted John. No reply. I thought maybe he was painting. Or just resting. But I got more worried. And then they found it. The final sign. The letter. It was lying on Hackman's desk. Scribbled handwriting. No address. Not even a recipient's name. Just words. Disjointed. Haunting. The FBI later examined the letter, and what they found shook them. It wasn't a letter. It was a desperate cry. A man trying to record what he was seeing, but unable to fully understand it. A message no one received, until it was too late. Did Hackman realize his wife was gone? Did he even understand his own isolation? Or was he lost in a world where the past and present no longer made sense? The only certainty? Betsy died alone. Gene was left behind. And no one knew. February 11th, the last day anyone saw Betsy alive. A normal day. She left home. Farmer's market, pet store, back home. Everything seemed fine. But after that, nothing. Silence. Vanishing into thin air. When they found Betsy's body on February 26th, the coroner confirmed. She had been dead for 2 weeks. The cause? Not a heart attack, not a stroke, not natural causes. It was something far more terrifying. Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, a rare deadly disease, transmitted through rodent droppings. Once infected, it destroys the lungs. It happens fast. One moment, you feel fine. The next, you can't breathe. The theory? Betsy may have accidentally inhaled virus-infected dust. Maybe while cleaning a storage room. Maybe while gardening. She might not have even realized it. Then, the symptoms hit. She went to the bathroom, shortness of breath. Panic, no phone, no one to help. And in minutes, she was gone. Gene never called for help, never left the house. He wrote a letter instead. A letter that no one saw. A letter that said everything. But then, the FBI found something else. Something hidden in the letter. A single line that made them question everything. Zena is locked. What did it mean? A person? A message? A secret he couldn't say? What they discovered next changed everything. Like, comment and subscribe for part 2. Because this mystery is far from over. The words were simple, but to the FBI, they were terrifying. Zena is locked. 2 words, 2 possibilities. A person, a message, or something else entirely? Investigators searched everything. Family records, friend lists, associates, former co-stars, assistants. No one named Zena. So who, or what, was locked? Then an agent noticed something. Hidden in a small storage room. A door. Locked. Inside they found it. A cat, thin, dehydrated, barely moving. Her name? Zena. The room had no dangers, no reason to lock a cat inside. So why did Hackman do it? The FBI brought in neurologists, experts in Alzheimer's. Their theory? Gene panicked. His mind was failing him. His reality was fractured. He saw something. That wasn't there. Maybe he thought Zena was dangerous. Maybe he thought he was protecting her. Maybe he didn't know what was real anymore. Then came the real horror. A new timeline began to emerge. It was worse than anyone imagined, because Gene Hackman didn't die the same day as his wife. He lived for weeks. The autopsy confirmed it. Gene passed away days before they were found. But for 2 weeks, he was alive, living in that house, with Betsy's body in the next room. Did he know? Did he understand? Or was he lost, wandering those halls, talking to a ghost, believing she was still there? The FBI examined the letter again. One sentence stood out. It was written days later, a different pen, a different pressure. She won't wake up. He knew, but he couldn't comprehend it. He was trapped, inside his home, inside his mind, until finally, he faded away too. The question now wasn't how they died. The question was why no one noticed. How does a world-famous actor disappear for 2 weeks, and no one realizes it? The FBI went deeper. They checked phone records. They interviewed his closest friends. The answers were terrifyingly simple. No cell phone, no landline, no social media. Gene Hackman had spent years disappearing, until finally, he was gone. His friends assumed he was resting, His neighbors assumed he was painting. But all the while, inside that house, Gene Hackman was dying in silence. Then came the final mystery. Something the FBI never explained. During the autopsy, a toxicology report was run. Standard procedure. Betsy had died from hantavirus. Gene? Something else. The report came back inconclusive. His organs showed signs of failure, but not from Alzheimer's, not from malnutrition, not from a stroke. Something else, something unknown. The FBI's final statement? Gene Hackman passed away due to natural causes, accelerated by cognitive decline. But some investigators weren't convinced. Was it just age? Was it Alzheimer's? Or did something else happen in those 2 weeks of silence? To this day, the truth remains unknown. The house is empty. The investigation closed. But one thing is certain. Gene Hackman's final letter was more than just words. It was a message, a warning, and a story that will haunt Hollywood forever. Like, comment, and subscribe for more mysteries. Because this one is far from over. Gene Hackman had been alone. Completely. Not just physically, but in his mind. The FBI had their answer. Hackman never called for help, not because he chose not to, because he didn't know how. Or worse, he didn't understand what had happened. The letter was his last attempt to make sense of the chaos in his own mind. But it was too late. The words were fragments. Memories that slipped through his fingers before he could grab them. A mind that was no longer his own. The truth? Gene Hackman had been trapped in his house. But even worse, he had been trapped inside himself. In the late stages of Alzheimer's, the brain begins to fail in ways most people can't comprehend. The past blends with the present. The real mixes with the imaginary. Time becomes a broken loop, unraveling, disappearing, resetting. Gene Hackman wasn't just alone. He was lost in time, wandering. Maybe he walked through the house, calling Betsy's name, believing she was still there. Maybe he spoke to her, not realizing she would never answer. Maybe he thought she was asleep. And every time he saw her, he forgot she was gone. The letter wasn't just words on a page. It was evidence. Evidence of a brilliant mind, falling apart. A man who was once known to the world, now a ghost in his own home. When the FBI received the report from the local police, they weren't planning to investigate. At first it seemed clear-cut, a tragic case of disease and isolation. But then they found the letter, and one small detail changed everything. Was Hackman just a victim of Alzheimer's? Or had something else happened? The FBI went deeper. Betsy's last emails, Hackman's last calls, any security cameras in the area. Then they found something. Something that made their blood run cold. A disconnected call from Hackman's landline, February 12th. A single attempt to reach someone. The call lasted less than 5 seconds. Then, it was cut off. Who was he calling? Why did the call end so quickly? Was it a mistake? Or had someone, or something, stopped him? The FBI had to consider the unthinkable. Had someone been in that house? Had Hackman tried to call for help, but been silenced? The letter was proof of confusion. But was it also evidence of something more? Then, they found something even more disturbing. In the darkest corner of the house, almost hidden in the shadows, they found a wire crate, pushed against the wall. At first it seemed unimportant, until an investigator looked inside. What they saw made everyone freeze. Zena was dead. Not from violence, not from injury. She had wasted away. Her body was thin, her eyes sunken, her claws worn down from scratching at the bars. She had tried to escape. For days, maybe weeks. Investigator John Whitaker knelt down. He gently opened the crate door. The stench of death filled the air. But what was more terrifying was the silence it left behind. Why was Xena locked up? Who did this? According to vet records, Xena had been taken to the clinic by Hackman on February 10th. Minor leg infection. Otherwise healthy. Hackman asked about her care. The veterinarian remembered the visit. Gene seemed different. He was struggling to hold on to his thoughts. But he cared. You could see that. But somehow, within 48 hours, Xena was locked away, abandoned, and left to die. The most haunting part? Hackman's 2 other dogs had survived. Their bowls were still filled with food and water. This proved something chilling. Even as his memory failed, Hackman still had instincts. He still fed the dogs. He still opened the door for them. But Xena was different. She was forgotten. Completely. This is the true horror of late-stage Alzheimer's. The mind still performs daily habits, but when faced with new situations, it breaks. Maybe Hackman brought Xena home, put her in the crate for safety. Then, he forgot. Forgot she existed. Forgot to feed her. Forgot to open the door. And as Xena cried out for help, Hackman didn't remember why. Investigator Rachel Monroe looked down at Xena's body. She felt something deeper than sadness. Love isn't enough. Not when the mind betrays you. Hackman's final days were a loop. Over, and over, and over, like a man trapped in time. He walked to the door, looked outside, didn't open it. He went to the refrigerator, opened it, didn't eat. He picked up a book, read a page, forgot what he read, and then he did it all again. The greatest tragedy wasn't death. It was the slow vanishing of everything that mattered. Then came the final discovery. A small piece of paper, tucked inside a book. Only one sentence. "Betsy is waiting for me." When did he write it? Before the disease stole everything? Or in the final moment when a piece of Betsy flashed through the fog? A memory, a whisper, a faint light in the darkness, maybe for a brief moment. Gene Hackman remembered everything. Maybe in those last few seconds, he wasn't lost anymore. Maybe, finally, he found his way home. There was no crime, no killer, just time, disease, isolation, and the cruelest truth of all. Sometimes forgetting is more terrifying than death. Like, comment and subscribe for more mysteries. Because this is one Hollywood will never forget. Alert.